Hello, friends, and welcome. I would like to invite you into my world a little bit for a few minutes. I'm going to give you a little tour of my library, my hideaway, my Rabbi Cave. Been called a bunch of different things. I just call it my room, where I've been spending a lot of my time over the last 6 months. This is sort of a combination of what I did with my summer vacation, also a little bit of an excuse why I don't have a suntan after all this long summer. And also, it's my response to an opportunity/challenge issued by our good friend, my colleague Rabbi Beshevkin, who made us a very engaging and endearing video tour of his own office in preparation for Shavuot. But he said at the end there, he slipped it in somewhere, if you really want to see a library, you got to see Rabbi Kanofsky. So herewith, a little invitation, a little tour of some of the highlights down here in the basement library at the Kanofsky house. So if you see, we're going down steps here. There's steps behind me there. We're actually in the basement, and as you take a look around, I'll show you down one wall here. Sort of looks a little bit like a used bookstore, which probably with good reason, because I spent a lot of time amassing these books over the years from used bookstores, from library sales, all kinds of sources. Here's another shelf with a lot of Yiddish and Israeli Hebrew literature on it. Here's some stuff that hasn't quite been filed yet. Working on making my way through those. Show you just a couple of things over here. The Kafka collection. This is a couple of shelves of books that I collected, gathered to use writing my dissertation. That was part of it. Over here on the next shelf over, a little collection. If anybody remembers having to read The Little Prince, Le Petit Prince, in high school French, well, I found out that it's got editions in about 100 different languages. So whenever one of those turns up, I try to pick up one of those. Don't have many books in Afrikaans, but happen to have this one. So if anybody would like to come over and read to me as a bedtime story, Die Kleine Prinsie, mit Tekeningen door die Schrijver. You could see I need some help. So if anybody wants to come and help me make my way through that one, that would be very welcome. Here we have a lot of books on politics and history and all that. A whole section on Lyndon Johnson. What a character he was. Okay, so moving along here, I'm going to take you out of this sort of auxiliary library, the annex here, and we'll move into the main inner sanctum, if you will. I'm walking through the doors backwards. I do not usually do that, so I hope I don't trip over anything. I think I cleared the path for myself, cleared the way. Now we're heading into the library, into the office, the bunker, my room. So here we are. Sit down here and I'll give you a little 360 tour so you get a sense of where we are. Let's see. Okay, so this is one wall. This is the back wall. Oops, sorry. Opposite wall. Hope I'm not making anybody too seasick over here. And then the other wall that we just walk through the door there. Okay, and now we're back. Okay, so let me just point, there's a lot of things here, and if anybody is looking for any hard-to-find Jewish books or anything, or offbeat literary things, let me know. I'd be happy to help if I can. Let me just point out a couple of things that I think are interesting, and maybe you will too, or maybe not. We'll have to give it a try. Here's a little collection of books here. There's about 6 of them here. Out of a series of probably 80 or 85. I'm not sure how many are in this series. These are books published by Schocken Publishers, which you may be aware of. They are still publishing a lot of good quality Jewish books. These books in particular, where's my finger? There. These guys right here. This series was published in Germany between 1931 and 1938. Which personally gives me a lot of confidence and pride and trust in the Jewish people. It says to me, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, doesn't matter what's going on around us, we're publishing interesting books and we're reading them. So that's how we occupy our time. Moving over just a little bit here, we have on the shelf a little vintage portrait here. Let's see if we can move in without catching the light off too much. Here you have 3 young, fresh fellows in their high school graduation regalia. One of those three happens to be me, so I will leave it to you to figure out which one. If you need a hint, I have one coming up a little bit later. So that is going back a few years. On the very next shelf over, we have our Rabbi Lord Dr. Jonathan Sacks shelf here, including his latest book, Morality. Just came out, I think, last week or the week before in Canada. If you don't have a copy of that yet, you might want to get yourself one through Amazon or through some other retailer. Very good book. And we're going to read that in the course of the year as a community. We'll get together on Zoom once a month or so, and people will summarize and ask questions about certain chapters and the issues it raises. So please join us for that. And if you'd like to volunteer to lead one of those discussions, please let me know. That would be a lot of fun. What else we've got moving along here? You have some of those little dog collar name tags that they make you wear at conferences. There's a bunch of them here. Here's one from the APAC conference, the American Israel Political Action Committee, Affairs Committee, whatever it is, from 2016. Very traumatic. Still working through the issues there. Maybe if I get over it, I'll go back and go to another one day. Moving along here, past the biographies section, we come to a piece of incunabula. Now, what's incunabula, you say? I had to look it up myself. I was at a very, very interesting exhibit at Robarts Library at the U of T a couple of years ago, where they had 1,000 years of Hebrew manuscripts. Obviously, in the early days, they were handwritten. But at a certain point, movable type was invented. So that was around 1450 or so, whenever Mr. Gutenberg figured out how to do that. So the first 50 years of printing are called incunabula, cradle literature, the very, very early, like the birth of printing. So I had a few things here and there. Somebody gave me a book published in the 1600s, a sefer, and I had a few things from the 1700s that I actually found in Shemus, cast-off Hebrew books. So I thought, I wonder if I could amass a collection of every century of Hebrew printing. So I had something that I bought on eBay for $10 from the 1500s. So I thought, we're getting close. What I'm missing is incunabula. So hunted high and low around the globe and found this piece, which has been very nicely framed. I have a good recommendation for a frame maker. This one single page from a sefer. The sefer is actually, if you can see it on the close-up there, from the Commentary on the Torah by Ramban Nachmanides, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. This particular one was published in Lisbon in 1489, just a few years before the Jews were expelled from Portugal, which was a couple of years after the expulsion from Spain. So this is one page from that. I'm told that the books from Portugal are very rare because most of them were actually burned in the Inquisition there. And if I'll zoom in on the top here, on the page heading, you'll see it's commenting on Parshas Matos. And the section it's commenting on, you can see the words there, hopefully, V'shem bas Asher Serach. This is talking about Serach bat Asher, who's a figure who comes up in our conversations from time to time. Very worth looking into if you haven't already. See some nice, authentic wormholes there and everything. Okay, what else do we have here in the library, in the cave, in the rabbi's hideout? Oh, there we have a old school stereo, old-fashioned stereo with an actual turntable. That is vinyl. So I enjoy the feeling of the turning over the record when it's at the end there. You can guess what I'm listening to. Moving along here, actually we have those same guys, those same fellas that we met a couple of minutes ago in the high school graduation picture. The years have added some gray hairs to them, which probably makes it a little bit easier for you to guess which one is yours truly. So we're getting a glare there in the light. Maybe you can see in the background that shoreline there is the mighty Pacific Ocean as our backdrop. Okay, another picture here in the Rogues Gallery as we go down the row here. This is me at the tender age of about 2 or so, getting my first balalaika lesson from my grandfather, who could play just about any instrument by picking it up and figuring it out. Sad to say that my balalaika career never took off, as maybe it should have, but this is where the magic began. Down a little bit further here is an interesting piece, a very recent discovery. This is a 4 Blue Star pin. What are the Blue Star pins? During World War II, when American families had children in uniform service overseas, I think, usually sons, but could be any child, they got a little banner with a blue star to hang in the window to share the news with other people that they were making their sacrifice for democracy and freedom around the world. And they had a child serving in uniform. And if you had two children, of course, you had a flag with two blue stars and so on. So look once again, you'll see that there are actually 4 stars on this little pin to be worn on the lapel or on the mother's dress, whatever it happens to be. I found out at a family reunion just 2 summers ago, talking to my great uncle, who's well into his 90s, should live and be well, that he actually joined the armed services in July of 1945. He joined his 3 older brothers, my grandfather, his twin brother, and they had 1 more brother. So there were actually 4 Kanofskis serving in the United States Armed Forces at the beginning of July of 1945. And as you know, the Japanese signed their unconditional surrender by the beginning of September. So not hard to do the math on that one, right? Okay, right next door, you have a lovely picture of the lovely Rebbitzin there, enjoying her day, taking a boat ride across Lake Como in Italy. That smile will tell you it's probably time for us to take another trip to Lake Como. Beautiful place. Looking upstairs a little bit, you have a whole shelf here. I have a whole shelf here of Haggadahs. For those who are Haggadah collectors like I am, I know that our Kehillah boasts some wonderful collections of Haggadahs. Always something to learn. It's probably the most popular and most widely reprinted Jewish book there is. Going up a shelf, we have the Elie Wiesel collection. That's all the books of Professor Elie Wiesel written in English, a couple of them in French, a few in different languages, one of the original ones in Yiddish, in a reprint, and some books about him also. And at the end of the stack there's a whole pile of notes from Elie Wiesel's classes at BU that I had the good fortune to be part of a long time ago, and some drafts of articles and things that I'm hoping one day I'll turn into something more substantial. I wrote a few articles and published a few things in the newspapers when he passed away a couple of years ago. So that's sort of a work in progress there. Okay, what else do we have to look at? We have the shelf, the wall of Sfarim here. These are books of Jewish thought, Jewish law, mystical thought, Torah commentary. I'm going down there. Oops, where are we? So you can see the Gemaras along the bottom shelf there. Those things, the Talmudic texts that we learn on a regular basis in our shul. These are the source for some of the wisdom of the ages, wisdom of the sages that I'm trying to bring across in talks and writings and so on. So a lot of it comes from here. A shelf of family Bibles over there somewhere. Somehow or other, I guess people figure I like books, so in the family I became the go-to guy to give away your family Bible, which is good because they have that. People write information, birthdays, wedding anniversaries, and so on in those pages there, the family record pages, so I wind up with those. I want to show you one family Bible that I find very moving and significant. Happens not to be a family Bible from my family, but from somebody else's, and it's still interesting. So this is something that I picked up at a book sale in Baltimore years ago. Just found it waiting for me there on a sale table. It is, you'll see from the spine there, it says the Heilige Schrift, the Holy Scriptures. And this is actually, I'm going to open it and show you the beautiful inscription here in a very beautiful hand, written in fountain pen. This was presented to a bar mitzvah boy on the occasion of his bar mitzvah at a shul in Berlin, in Spandau, a suburb of Berlin. And it was Shabbat Bereshit. You'll see from the Hebrew letters there at the end of the last line of writing. It was Shabbos Bereshit, the first Shabbos after Simchas Torah, when you would begin reading the Torah again at the beginning. And that year, that was the 27th of Tishrei, as it usually is, more or less, in the year 5699, corresponding to the 22nd of October, 1938. I actually wrote a column about this a couple years ago in the CJN. When I found this and read what it was and sort of put the pieces together, connected it with my own experience of Shabbat Bereshit, of Shabbos Bereshit, new beginnings and excitement and sort of the post-holiday chance to relax and all that. Can't imagine that there was too much chance for the Jews of Berlin to relax in October of 1938. They didn't know, but of course we know that they were just 3 weeks away from Kristallnacht. But there they were, celebrating bar mitzvah, wishing this bar mitzvah boy Mazel Tov, and presenting him with a Bible for him to study. So there you have it, where that is positioned right behind the very versatile and very well-used combination reading chair / nap chair. It adjusts in really literally the blink of an eye from a comfortable reading chair to a comfortable nap chair, and I have made use of that on many occasions. I did have a little bit of a debate with myself. Should I present this whole office to you clean and pristine with everything organized neatly, or just show you as it usually is, which is a little bit of a mess? So I compromised and I straightened up the bookshelves and sort of put things where they go. Cleaned up the coffee table here, so that's had a bunch of stacks on it. Now it's nice and clean. But I thought I'd leave the desk in its original chaotic, disorganized state there. So here you have notes, you have drafts, you have books that I took off the shelf and didn't get a chance to put back yet. You have things that I'm in the middle of learning with myself, with other people, a little coffee mug there, a little water bottle, stay hydrated. So I will, this is where I sit, by the way, when I do the shiurim and the l'chaims and all that. So when I sit down in 1 second, I think you'll recognize the backdrop. Here we go. So I'm moving into place now. Yes. Set this up because usually I'm on the computer, but I wasn't going to hold the computer for all this time. My arm would get tired. So if you're used to seeing me in the shiurim or at the l'chaim, this is how it usually looks with this backdrop. Now you see that it's fully three-dimensional and it is the real thing. So there you have it. So thanks for coming along to this little tour. Again, if anybody's interested in talking about books, I do enjoy them, like reading them, like owning them, like thinking about them. So happy to have those conversations. You see that I have about 6 feet of space between these chairs here in my little den. So if anybody wants to come over a cup of tea, be in touch, and we will make sure that happens. In any case, let me wish everybody a happy and a healthy and a sweet new year. We should share a lot of good conversations about interesting books and interesting things in our lives and our experiences. We should all have a healthy and happy and good and sweet new year for us, for our families, for our kehillah, for the whole Jewish people, and please God for the whole world. It should be much better. This coming year should surprise. May it surprise us with how good things turn out. Even much better than we expected, please God. So look forward to seeing many people at the high holiday services coming up in the next weeks, and look forward to seeing everybody in the not too distant future after that somehow or other. Take care, be well, Shana Tova Umetuka.